Hi, welcome back to another episode of Add Labs. We're almost done with our basics module and we're almost ready to finalize our AI Receptionist, but there's still a few more things we need to go through before we finish. In this episode, we're going to be covering scenarios and guardrails. And one thing I kept wondering is, what is the difference between a scenario and a skill? And that's what we're going to be covering in this episode. So let's get into it. Now we're moving on to scenarios and guardrails. And this is probably the one that trips me up the most because what is a skill and what is a scenario? How can we explain this to everyone else who's probably looking at this and saying, okay, but isn't this similar?
Skills give you much more room for creativity. And we were discussing before that you can think of skills as sub-agents or experts in a specific domain, whereas scenario, they are much more reactive and shorter. If A happens, B should be the voice agent reaction. So what you see here is a couple of default ones. So this one is quite simple. When the robocall or spam is detected, reply nothing, and action will be hang up. The same, for example, regarding this one, if caller ends the conversation, have a great day and hang up.
How does the voice agent detect that it's a spam call?
So with the voice agent and with any kind of AI, you can always expect some level of smartness. Large language models are trained on certain set of data. And if particular sentences or phrases are usually connected with spam, normal conversations, then that's basically where it would understand that this is most probably spam. You don't have to rely on that. If you see, for example, in your language or in your culture, spam calls having other indicators, feel free to mention them here. For example, if it's a cold call, you can always add this here, or you can even create another scenario and just describe this here. If cold call is detected, then reply nothing, and actually will be able to hang out. Getting back to your original question, how do you distinguish between scenario and the skill? There are things you cannot do in the skills that you can do in scenarios, or it takes a little bit more technical proficiency to do this in the skill, and in scenarios it's simpler. So right now in CloudTalk, we have 3 actions that you can do reactively. It's a hang up, it's send SMS, and tool call. Tool call opens the door to many other possibilities because you can configure REST API endpoints to be called to get information and to push information, and voice agent can use these tools. However, for hanging up and sending SMS, these are 2 things that you can easily configure here. So we already saw how hang up works. With send SMS, it's quite simple. So for example, when caller asks for product catalog, we can say, sure, I will send it to you via SMS. An action will be send SMS. We can select a particular number and we can type a message. Here's Apex HVAC product catalog and give it some link.
Can we have more than one thing happening at the same time? So for instance, can we have the caller asking for a product catalog and then at the same time the caller ending the conversation?
Well, you can try to chain them together. It really depends on what you're trying to achieve. What you just said is 2 different actions, right? Send a catalog and then end the conversation. So which one do you want to happen first? Probably sending the catalog, right? One will be triggered by requesting the catalog, and another, you will just add something like when caller requested a catalog and catalog was successfully sent, then we will just go call us back later and we'll just hang up. If you would just do the same trigger twice, this is exactly the overlapping instructions that we are talking about, right? You're allowing voice agent to be creative regarding what scenario or what skill should kick in first. So to avoid this, it's better to chain them together and actually think how do you want voice agent to behave. Another example would be if you want 2 other simple scenarios. Let's say when the caller is asking about the routine repairs, then you can reply them about that $80 fee. And then another scenario would be when the caller is asking to call them back, then reply, please let us know the suitable time. You can have both of them in this scenario, but this is exactly a good use case when you have multiple scenarios bundled together based on a particular inquiry. Then it's much better to put them in the skill together and describe how exactly you want voice agent to have those scenarios connected together into one conversation. However, if you have a couple of scenarios and you're already thinking, okay, how do I bundle them together? This should happen first, then this, and this. Then it's already better to start describing this in the skill with a normal prompt, how you would normally do this.
So what you're basically saying is that scenarios and guardrails are much more straightforward. And like, if this happens, do this. In the skills, it can get a little bit more complex and it's for more slightly elaborate requests. In the skills, it's like take a message because someone asked for something. And in scenarios and guardrails, it's more like they ask for a catalog. It's pretty straightforward.
I think one of the good ways to think about this is that behind all of this, there is a one big prompt that is teaching voice agent how to behave in different situations. And in that prompt, skills are together one after another, but the scenarios are grouped according to action. So for example, if there is action that is called hang up, then you have multiple scenarios like this. Then you will basically have in the prompt something like hang up in these circumstances. So it's actually not grouped together and not mentioned in series, but it's grouped according to particular action. That's why I'm saying that scenarios and guardrails, they're more standalone and not really connected to each other. If you want a scenario or multiple scenarios kind of to be bundled according to particular inquiry, then skill is a better place for them to live.
We run into the risk again of skills and scenarios overlapping. So as we explained in the knowledge base as well, we always need to be mindful of what we're putting throughout the setup to stay consistent. So if not, our voice agent can easily hallucinate.
Correct.
So I guess, are we done? Is our voice agent ready to go?
I would say so. It looks pretty good. So we clicked on finish. It saved successfully. Now we have the voice agent ready. And
Okay,
the next
wait.
step. Mhm.
I thought we were done.